You're listening to The Patriot Cause with Bud Cornwell, United States Marine Corps retired, standing guard on the Wall of Freedom.
For a nation that prides itself on its democracy, America hasn't made the act of voting particularly easy.
We have 13,000 election jurisdictions in this country that run elections 13,000 different ways. Election officials get to do different things from one place to the next. Some voters vote on different kinds of ballots from others. And so we have different rules about who can register and who can't from state to state. And it's really not one America when it comes to voting. There are cracks in our democracy. In fact, the way that elections are run is dysfunctional.
As for the enemies of freedom, those who are potential adversaries, they will be reminded that peace is the highest aspiration of the American people. We will negotiate for it, sacrifice for it. We will not surrender for it now or ever.
Welcome back, Patriots. This is the Gunny on the Patriot Cause, and it's Monday, almost 1 week after the midterm election. And we're still counting votes, which is absolutely ridiculous. For hundreds of years in this country, election night, people went to vote. The votes were counted. The next morning when you woke up, you knew who was elected. But I guess things have changed. You know, these people believe that now you can have an election month or an election year to count the votes. However, I want to present to you the Constitution of the United States. It's going to blow your mind. So get ready for this. The right to vote. Do you, as a U.S. citizen, have the right to vote according to the U.S. Constitution? No, it is not in the Constitution. The right to vote. The reason it's not there is because it doesn't need to be there. And the Founding Fathers understood that. The country would be developed. The government would be developed. And the people would vote for their representatives in the Republic of the United States. There's no reason for the Founding Fathers to put anything in the Constitution securing your right to vote. It's inherent as a U.S. citizen in this country. However, the leftists and the insane people in this world are using this platform of it is not in the Constitution to give you the right to vote, to further their cause of putting or changing the Constitution so you have the right to vote. It's a given. You understand that? It's reasonably given by the very smart people that created the Constitution that every U.S. citizen, think about what I just said, U.S. citizen has the right to vote in this republic. This is from the conversation.com. The right to vote is not in the Constitution. That is a true statement. The rest of this crap is not. If you're looking for the right to vote, you wouldn't find it in the U.S. Constitution or the Bill of Rights. The framers of the Constitution never mentions a right to vote. They didn't forget. They intentionally left it out. To put it most simply, the founders didn't trust ordinary citizens to endorse the rights of others. This is how they look at this crap. This is absolute bull crap. And then it further continues. After the Civil War, the 15th Amendment was ratified in 1870. Guaranteed the right to vote would not be denied on account of race. If some white people could vote, so could similarly qualified non-white people. But that still didn't recognize a right to vote. Only the right of equal treatment. This is back in 1870. Similarly, the 19th Amendment, now more than 100 years old, banned voting discrimination based upon sex, but did not recognize an inherent right to vote. Woo. How stupid these people are. Again, it's not in the Constitution because it is rational thinking. If you are a U.S. citizen, then you can vote. If you're not, then you can't. It doesn't matter what color or race or whatever. But see, they had to put this in there. And I get it to a certain point. When, for instance, like women couldn't vote, black people couldn't vote. And that's why this 15th Amendment was put in there to force the states to allow everyone to vote. Not disagreeing with that at all. But they had the right to vote, period, from the beginning of the Constitution and the country. The Democrats, listen to what I'm telling you. The Democrats of this country are the ones that were racist and did not want these people to vote. And that's why they had to put the 15th Amendment in the Constitution. Oh, but there is more. So let's go back and talk about the 14th Amendment, Section 1 of the U.S. Constitution. This is from the Cornell Law School. And this is what the 14th Amendment says. All persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. No state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens of the United States. I'm quoting that, of the United States. Nor shall any state deprive any person, liberty, or property without due process of the law, nor deny to any person within the jurisdiction the equal protections of the law. So the 14th Amendment realized changes to the Constitution so everyone can understand specifically U.S. citizens in this country. The right not just to live and prosper, but life, liberty, and property. How do you protect all of that? You vote. You go out to the ballot, put your finger on the people that support that conceptual idea of your life, your liberty, and your property. And then the 15th Amendment comes out. Of course, because the Democrat says the 14th is not good enough. You see, the 15th is now promoting a segregation, a divide of the American citizens to ensure, quote, these other people have the right to vote. They had it in the first place. The only reason they couldn't vote is because the evil of the Democrats. The right of citizens of the United States to vote, again, that's that citizens thing, shall not be denied or abridged by the United States or by any state on account of race, color, or previous condition of servitude. See how insane these people are? And this was back in 1870. Now they have escalated to a point of using this race, color, identity, whatever, to say they don't have a right to vote. And they're insane. So why we need a right to vote amendment? And this is what the left is trying to do. They're saying now we need an actual right to vote because it's not in the Constitution. You know, these people don't care. But anything they can do to further their cause of a country that is controlled by the government, they will do it. They want to completely eliminate the republic of every state. They want every state to be identical based upon what? The federal government. Again, going back to the Constitution, the Founding Fathers understood that. That's why they limited the power of the federal government and give the power to the states. If you don't like the state that you live in, then move. But that is now how the leftists think about it. They're saying we all states must be the same. Therefore, it's a simple mathematic understanding. If they're saying that, that means they will be no states. It would only be a communist social country across the United States. And this is what they want. Voting is an American principle and a basic democratic right that should be protected. We all understand that, promoted and practiced, which is why many people are surprised to learn that the U.S. Constitution provides no explicit right to vote. They're using this Constitution to say it is flawed. This leaves voting rights vulnerable to the whims of politicians and some citizens with fewer rights than others. No, it doesn't. It's inherently a right. You are in the United States. You are a U.S. citizen. Therefore, you have the right to vote. And you have the right to vote in your state and for your federal elected officials. We don't need to put that in the Constitution. And I guarantee you, if these leftists are able to add an amendment to the Constitution, they would take out very, very simply the words of U.S. citizen. They would say that everybody in socialist America has the right to vote, even if you're not a citizen. That's why they want to do it. So listen to this clip I'm going to play for you called The Right to Vote.
I'm Mo Rocca, American. And as an American, I'm proud that I have the right to vote. Or do I? For answers, I consulted the Constitution.
This is the wrong copy, I think.
No, this is the
No, this is the Constitution.
This is the Constitution.
Yeah. A close reading of the Constitution didn't turn up anything about the right to vote.
There is no right to vote in the Constitution.
You're not kidding me.
No, I'm not kidding you. The Constitution at the nation's birth made no mention of voting rights whatsoever.
Did they just forget to?
No, they didn't forget to. They were unsure, in fact, whether voting was a right or a privilege. And if it was a right, they weren't sure who the right actually belonged to. And in fact, if you look closely at the Constitution, the only office that they refer to as being elected is for the House of Representatives.
This constitutional silence on the right to vote puts the U.S. in some interesting company, including Chechnya, Libya, and Iran.
What we have is a kind of ragtag series of ad hoc constitutional amendments that say you can't discriminate on the basis of race. You can't discriminate on the basis of sex. But other than these kind of anti-discrimination amendments, we don't have the affirmative universal right to vote like you find in the South Africa Constitution, which just simply says everybody's got a right to vote. That's what it means to have a democracy. That's what we the people really means.
Because the drafters of the Constitution left control of voting to the states, we've ended up with a wildly decentralized voting system. So, for example, while in Vermont, people convicted of felonies can vote from the comfort of their prison cells, it's a very different story in Mississippi.
A Canton man convicted of voter fraud is given the maximum sentence. Terrence Watts will serve 10 years in prison for voting illegally twice.
After serving time for a felony, Watts, who was still on the registration rolls, broke the law by merely voting in 2 separate elections. He's scheduled for release in 2020.
It's outrageous. Florida has about 900,000 people with felony convictions who cannot vote. We really need to be in a place where you've done your time, you just get your rights back.
Would a constitutional right to vote help clear up this mess? Well, an amendment to do just that has been stalled in Congress since 2001. Maybe by the time Terrence Watts gets out of prison, every American will be guaranteed the right to vote.
Obviously, these people don't understand what a republic is. And the founding fathers understood that because they were coming from a country of tyranny where the government was in charge of everything. They had no freedom. And they understood that. Thus, they created states, a republic, to where the states determine your life, because they are closest to you. Your representatives in the states are closer to you than Washington, D.C. But see, these Democrats / leftists, liberal people think because of the injection of communism and socialism in this country that the government knows best, and we shouldn't have states. We should bow down to the federal government. Now, in the past, socialist communist countries, they had elections and have elections. But in China, unless you're part of that political party, you have no right to vote. In Russia, in the past, the same thing. They had no right. And even if they did vote, their vote was filtered by the federal government. And unless you agreed with the controlling factors of that country, your vote never counted. That's why the founding fathers created the states. Think about it this way. Every state in the United States should be and is like a mini country. But the reason we are like that is because that way the tyranny in a massive millions of people cannot control everybody. And unfortunately, our government, federal-wise, has gotten so big. Now, in the mind of the leftists, it is time to allow the federal government full power over the United States and virtually eliminate any representatives which you are closer to, which represent you and your concerns in Congress and Senate, to be eliminated. So if that happens, which we pray to God it won't, but if it does, then the majority of these people that believe in freedom will be eliminated, just like they did in Russia and China. Millions of people that do not agree with the, quote, federal government will be eliminated. That simple. We're going to take a break. When we get back, we're going to talk about ballot harvesting. Is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? You make that determination. I think it's very, very bad, and I'll explain to you why. We will be right back. Thank you so much for listening to the Patriot Call.
If you don't like who's in there, vote them out. That's what election day is all about. The biggest gun we've got is called the ballot box. So if you don't like who's in there, vote them out. 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 And when they're gone, we'll sing and dance. some new ones in, and we'll start that show again. And if you don't like who's in there, vote 'em out. A bunch of clowns voted in. Election day is coming round again. If you don't like it now, if it's more than you'll allow, if you don't like who's in there, vote 'em out. 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 And when they're gone, we'll sing and dance and shout. Bring some new ones in, and we'll start the show again. And if you don't like who's in there, vote 'em out. 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 That's what election day is all about. The biggest gun we've got is called the ballot box. So if you don't like who's in there, vote 'em out. If you don't like who's in there, we'll vote 'em out.
Lord, I wish we could just vote them out. You know, get rid of them. You know, go to the polling station and pick the people that represent us. But it's a new day. It's a new time. And we have technology, all of that stuff. And the powers to be. Doesn't matter which political ideology that you vote for. They are all corrupt. At least at the federal government stage. So the threat of ballot harvesting. Ballot harvesting is the practice in which political operatives collect absentee ballots from voters' homes and drop them off at a polling place or elected office. It may sound pretty innocuous, but this practice can and has been abused across this country. There was a time frame where absentee ballots, like military that were overseas, or people that are crippled and can't make it to the polling station. That is now out the window. Now, absentee ballots are anyone that is too lazy to go and present themselves with a ID card that they are U.S. citizens at a polling place. This is what we're dealing with. And you can say, well, the Democrats do it. No. All the politicians do it. It's just being shown, highlighted, that the Democrats do this. So, on ballot harvesting, GOP may have to push back. This is an article from Real Clear Politics in 2019. When Democrats across the country recently condemned the ballot harvesting election fraud on display in North Carolina's 9th Congressional District, Republicans who have spent years fighting the practice found themselves saying, "I told you so." the Democrat National Convention chairman, Tom Perez, praised the North Carolina Election Board decision last week to throw out the results that delivered a win for Republican Mark Harris and mandated an election do-over to determine the true winner. So 2019, the GOP was doing the same thing. So don't point your finger at any specific politician in any specific party. They all do this. Yes, they all do this. And it's a shame to American citizens, because when you vote and they feed this election system with these, quote, false ballots, then your vote becomes less and less and less. Every citizen of America should be required to show up, or at least have a picture of an ID that allows you to vote. If grandma can't make it there, that's fine. Take a picture of grandma's ID card, fill out the ballot, let her sign it, and then you take it to the polling station. That is not what is happening in America. So this is from Reuters, the other left side. Fact check. There is no evidence of widespread ballot harvesting ahead of the U.S. midterm election. This is how ignorant these people are. Of course there is. But this is the propaganda that the left is using to gaslight Americans and tell them that the voting election system is legitimate. And this is what they have to say. There is no evidence to support claims made by social media users that there is a nationwide effort to harvest ballots that result in massive voter fraud in 2022. The only way Democrats will win any midterm election is if they steal them, like they stole the 2020 presidential election, stuffing ballot box, ballot harvesting, gerrymandering, and the long list goes on and on and on. Ballot harvesting is laughable, corrupt, and it is legal in California, which it is in California. But most states, it is not. So I'm asking you this. Do you believe that ballot harvesting is presenting the opportunity on both sides to put ballots into the election system of people that are dead or do not exist? Absolutely. It's really that simple. And unfortunately, we see it every single day. In Pennsylvania, as an example, only 17% of Democrats actually showed up at the ballot at the voting place. The rest of them voted with mail-in ballots. Just think about that one. Thank you so much for listening to the podcast. I ask you dearly to share it far and wide. Let's get the truth so people can understand what is happening and not be gaslighted by the political and media of this country. You know the truth. We know the truth. But unless we actually engage in our lives to present to our family, our friends, our church, what the truth is, it's irrelevant because it will be completely drowned out. I do the research, so you do not have to. Thank you very much for listening to the podcast. This is The Gunny out.
Stand up for the flag and let's all ring the Liberty Bell. Let's make a Ford and a Chevy that'll still last 10 years like they should. 'Cause the best of the free life is still yet to come.